And as Arunima is pointing out, several people were pulled out of this wreckage and they had severe burns, and the death toll is only likely to go up as the recovery operations continue on the ground. Well, that is the situation in the wake of this crash. A lot of chaos on the ground as the authorities are trying to clear the area to gather evidence, but you can see the destruction, and as Arunima is pointing out, 1.25 lakh liters of aviation fuel was burnt in this entire crash, and you can still feel the fumes as the authorities go through the wreckage. Now, one miracle has taken place in the wake of this disaster, where a British national, his name is Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, he survived this entire ordeal. He was sitting on seat number 11A. He was traveling with his brother from Ahmedabad to London. And those are the visuals on your screen. Home Minister Amit Shah has met the lone survivor of the plane crash. His name is Vishwas Kumar Ramesh. He was a British national. He is a British national, excuse me, one of the lone survivors of this crash. He was traveling with his brother, and we don't have the news about his brother, what his whereabouts are, whether he perished in this plane crash. But one miracle has emerged from this entire ordeal, where Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, he reportedly jumped out of the emergency exit once the initial crash took place, and he was able to survive. He has also told several news outlets that when he woke up, he was surrounded by charred bodies and a lot of debris, and he just walked out of there. He was found by someone who took him to a hospital, and now he's receiving treatment. And Home Minister Amit Shah meeting the lone survivor of the crash of Air India Flight 171. Arunima continues to be with us on the broadcast to get us more details from Ground Zero as the recovery operations are still underway. Arunima, over to you.
So I've come to another part of that entire premises of the medical college. Here you see earth movers are at work trying to clean the premises. There is a sanitization process that is being carried out. Ropes and yellow tapes are being laid out. There's also these Kargil wars. This is the door. You see, that's the aircraft door which you are seeing right now. Perhaps the emergency door which someone tried to open. Perhaps this is what became part of the survivor's story, which is going to narrate for the next few days as to how he survived the Ahmedabad plane crash. And behind me, look at the building there. I don't know, it's quite dark. If you can see, it is completely charred. All I see is a white curtain in one corner, and yes, that white curtain in one corner is the only thing that tells you that once this was a living quarter. There are these air conditioners. Other than that, the window panes are broken. All that you see is black soot. This was the residence of the staff members, the doctors, the undergraduate medical students, the senior doctors. One survivor, in fact, told me that, he was called into this building. This is called Atulya, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each of these are 2 blocks. One plumber told me he was called in because there were some plumbing issues. He repaired and came out, and he came out to exactly where I am at the moment. And within a minute, he saw this plane crash land, and going up in fire, not giving people a chance at all to come out. Then there were ambulance operators who were next door, because this is a medical college campus. They came running even before the fire department did, and they saw people in flame, their back on flame, their limbs on flame, coming out, rushing out. Some of them managed to get medical aid and survived. At least 20-25 of them were pulled out, is what is being told by first responders, but many could not survive. We are still waiting to know the exact number as far as those who lost their lives, doctors and staff members who lost their lives because of the crash, not just the passengers. But this is all that remains. Once again, I'm leaving you with these images that those black, wire-like structures, those were tangible parts of the aircraft, burned to pieces, burned to literally nothing. That is what 1.25 lakh liter of aviation fuel does to a Boeing aircraft. This is the only solid piece that remains. The door of the aircraft. That is all that remains. Everything else has been charred beyond recognition.
Right, gut-wrenching visuals coming in from Ahmedabad. Thank you, Arunima, for getting us that report. And as Arunima was pointing out, you can see pieces of the aircraft, pieces of the luggage of the passengers. And one startling detail that's emerging is that that entire side of that building which faced the brunt of the crash has been completely wiped out. And as Arunima was pointing out, a lot of people rushed out of the debris of that building and they were on fire. Several of them got medical attention, but some were unlucky and they couldn't get medical attention in time and were and died on the
work. 100% or zero. There's nothing like 99.9% in aviation. And therefore, in this case also, look at the aircraft. It arrived from Ahmedabad from Delhi. Obviously, it flew without any issue. And to take a 9.5-hour journey from Ahmedabad to London, obviously the pilots would have done all the pre-flight checks. And no pilot is foolish enough to take off if he is not satisfied. The captain per se in this aircraft would have also had thousands and thousands of hours of command. And a 787 and today's aircraft per se are very robust, fail-safe. They have many backup systems. And to really think what went wrong, I would be hazarding a guess which would not be fair. But the point here is the aircraft did go on a takeoff roll. And between the time the wheels went up and the time it crashed, probably the time frame would have been almost only about 60 seconds or so, because you can't go to 800 feet and crash and it be within the time span is only 60 seconds. Now he's already given a mayday call. Now I don't know what exactly went wrong. It will be again hazarding a guess which would be unfair. The only thing which can be ascertained is now, since the aircraft has fallen just a few 100 meters from the airport and in the BJ Medical Complex, therefore to retrieve the black box and the other equipment would be also, quite simple. We would be able to ascertain only after that. Let me tell you one more thing. In today's aircraft, they are very sophisticated. All the parameters of an aircraft, right? Every single second the aircraft is in the air, all the parameters are recorded, not only by the aircraft, but they are also transmitted to a central command, real time, of the airline itself. So if there is, when an aircraft does a flight, there is a way to ascertain every single parameter during whatever the duration of the flight. So if anything would have gone wrong prior to this flight, or which may have escaped the attention of anybody, I'm sure this will be retrieved in no time once the equipment is found.
Now, Mr. Patel, just to go back in time, because this fleet, the Dreamliner, very, very safe. I think from what the experts are saying, and I only have them to sort of lean on for facts. They've
probably business class, going by the seat map of the 787. In all probability, the time of impact, he would have probably got thrown away from the fireball, which basically burned down everyone else. So it's definitely a miracle which happened. There cannot be a logical explanation to it as to which seat he was sitting in. It all depends on the impact of the airplane, at what angle and what attitude it impacted the ground.
Right, we're getting some more updates which are coming in. Please stay with us, gentlemen, because following this tragic incident which has rocked the nation, a formal investigation has been initiated by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau in line with international protocols set by the International Aviation Organization. Additionally, the government is also constituting a high-level committee comprising of experts from multiple disciplines to examine this matter in detail. So that formal investigation has been ordered by the government. An expert panel will look into the entire crash that has taken place earlier today that has shocked the entire nation. Over 200 people have been reported dead, and also a huge update coming in where the black box of this plane has been recovered. To get to the bottom of what went wrong in that 30 seconds between takeoff as well as the crash. Now those details will be revealed by the black box, which has now been recovered. This input just coming in that the black box of the plane has been recovered to ascertain the flight data as to what went wrong. Mr. Sudhakaran, you're joining us on the broadcast as well. What can we expect as the black box has been recovered and more details will now come to light clearly over what went wrong in that 30-second window between takeoff and crash?
Yes, the secrets are today entrapped within the black box. The good thing about this whole episode is that we have a video evidence of the last minutes leading up to the crash. That's very important. And that video actually speaks more, because generally we don't get the last few seconds of the crash. Here we are able to see it. So there are a couple of points that we need to understand here. The aircraft was perfectly in good shape to undertake this journey, because the pilot in no way could have cleared the aircraft if he had any suspicion whatsoever. It had just completed a trip from Delhi. It has landed in Ahmedabad. There was no report of any incidents during that flight, which didn't mandate any immediate intervention. So which meant that everything was perfect. All that we know is within 10 seconds of its takeoff, probably around the 15th to 20th second, there was a mayday call that was issued. And before the ATC could get back to the pilot and communicate back, which probably was because of the VHF communication set that is there, which is line of sight, and the flight had descended down, probably they couldn't communicate, and before we could know anything, it had crashed. Now, in between the sequence, if you see, there is a clear lack of thrust from the engine. The aircraft couldn't gain the height. The nose was up, the tail was down, and consequently, while it was going down, it had gone and impacted on a building, because of which the rear end of the fuselage had got lodged into the building. The aircraft probably was split into two sections.
Right.
The wing section had the fuel, which was the cause for the accident, wherein people got engulfed, and the temperature and the volume of the fuel that we had that burnt it, and then subsequently all these things have happened. Now the key question here is, why didn't the aircraft get the thrust, or why was the aircraft not able to lift? Now this clearly points to a fact that there was engine failure, but the problem is there are two engines here. Now for two engines to fail simultaneously, there needs to be a single cause or two causes which has happened at the same time, which is very, very rare. There is no video evidence to suggest there was a flock of birds which entered or to have impacted both the engines. So now the question the black box has to answer is, why did the engines fail? Or why were the engines not able to give the desired level of thrust?
Right.
So, as in aircraft accident or incident probing, we adopt what is called as the Swiss cheese model, wherein we talk about multiple layers of cheese with holes in it getting aligned perfectly. That's when a perfect accident happens.
Right.
It is not because of any one factor. So here again, there seems to be a series of factors which has started from one cause, which I will come to later, as to why the engines didn't develop the thrust. So the engines obviously have not developed the thrust. The landing gears were down because of the fact that the pilot must have observed that it has not got the adequate lift that it should get, and therefore if it needs to go for an emergency landing, it cannot go for a retracted undercarriage, and therefore the undercarriage was down, which again contributed to the fact that it induced greater drag on the aircraft, at such a lower altitude. This again, if you look at it, the maximum weight, the takeoff weight, it was almost at the periphery, right? Add to this lack of thrust and add to this the landing gear, which means that we were cooking up a disaster there. Now add to this two more factors. That is the area around the airfield, which was so densely populated, which means, if there was a river in the near vicinity or some open grounds, the pilot could have steered the aircraft and then attempted a situation wherein it wouldn't have gone and crashed into a building. So, if you look at it, there are series of 5, 6 layers already. Add to this, there is something that I've been trying to work on since afternoon, which is the battery pack of the 7878. This was known to create fire incidents, and the aircraft was grounded around 2013 for the same reason. And Boeing did a retrofit of these aircrafts, and they did 3 things. And the 3 things are, they did a titanium-based battery enclosure, they created some vent ducts, and they did some fire containment insulation mechanisms.
Right.
But this didn't alter the chemistry of the battery per se. So technically, these batteries, by virtue of being an electrical engineer, I can tell you that around 35 to 40 degrees Celsius, these batteries have a characteristics of, having thermal runaway phenomena, right? Now, today, if you specifically look at it, Delhi was experiencing a temperature of around 44 degrees to 46 degrees on the tarmac. Ahmedabad was around 42 to 40. If the aircraft is parked without the cooling system of the base in place, the temperatures could run anywhere between 50 to 60 degrees inside.
Right.
This could cause thermal shocks to the batteries. Now, this doesn't happen very frequently. It happens as a coincidence. Like, again, as I told you, as a Swiss cheese model, now at this temperature, and if the battery is going to heat up like this, and during takeoff or the engine start, that's when the battery is to discharge maximum energy, because the load on the battery is highest at that time.
Right.
When the battery is already in such a situation, that's when the thermal runaway happens.
Right,
It
so it's
can
like an
get
ignition.
heated up to 600 degrees Celsius.
Right.
Which means it could compromise your electrical circuits, your avionics, your FedEx systems, which could invariably have shut down your engines.
Right.
And that is where the things could get complicated. While, still I will say this theory is in the realm of speculation. I'm purely talking from an engineering basis.
Right, but you're highlighting that there was a lot in this recipe for a perfect storm to take place. So there were multiple factors which led to this disaster. Captain Chinta, I'll just come to you because we're getting another update. Prime Minister Modi will be in Ahmedabad tomorrow morning. The timing is yet to be confirmed. So after Home Minister Amit Shah as well as the Civil Aviation Minister, now Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be in Ahmedabad tomorrow to take stock of the entire situation. As the aftermath of this plane crash continues to unfold, ladies and gentlemen, as the sanitation ops are currently underway. The sanitation operations are still underway at the crash site, and the death toll is only likely to go up because it's not just the people aboard this plane, but also those in those buildings where this plane crashed. But talking about the black box, Captain Chinta, I want to come back to you on that point. When it comes to the black box that has now been recovered, give us a layman's perspective about the details that a black box will have to ascertain what actually happened in this flight in those 30 seconds.
Modern day cockpit voice recorder and the digital flight data recorder the digital flight data recorder can record as much as 78 parameters or more. It can record rate of climb, rate of descent, the engine parameters, the avionics, you name it, and it'll all get recorded on the flight data recorder. So it's like a Bible as far as the aircraft system is concerned. It'll tell you everything which is going right and going wrong when the data is downloaded. And the good part of the tail section being totally intact is that in all probability that's where the DFTR is and wouldn't have sustained any damage, even though it's capable of withstanding a large amount of crash loads. We can expect it to be intact because the tail section was more or less intact. So that's going to be the key to answering all the questions on what exactly went wrong, why the engines did not produce thrust. There could be multiple speculative theories like Wing Commander has already covered. It could be birds. The question of birds can't be really discounted because the engines on a Boeing 787 are close to the edge of the runway, going by the wingspan. And in Ahmedabad, it is rainy season. The grass is normally cut during this season to keep it as low as possible. So there are low-level birds which normally pick on worms which are on the grass. So in all probability, if there was any bird ingestion, it would be during the middle of the takeoff run, which may not have been picked up by even the CCTV. If that could be a possible reason for bird ingestion, followed by a compressor stall, because eyewitness accounts are there that they heard loud bangs, including the sole survivor also corroborates the story that there was a loud bang before the aircraft started going down. So these are all indicators that there was a compressor stall kind of event, which might have been a cause for the engines not producing thrust. The reasons for the compressor stall could be bird ingestion, could be a technical failure, could be multiple reasons. It's all speculative, which will only come out once the FDR data is downloaded.
Right.
So the reasons, as if you see, once the pilots went to almost an altitude of 625 feet on the flight radar. Even if we take it discount the airfield elevation, we're talking about 400 plus feet of height. On an average, as a pilot, I would raise the undercarriage by 50, 60 feet after getting airborne, positive rate of climb, and gear goes up. So the pilots would have definitely raised the gear, and why it did not go up all the way till 400 feet is speculation. There
Right.
could be multitude of reasons why it didn't go up or why it was not selected up. There could be any kind of reasons. Uh, the pilots would have had enough time to realize there was something wrong, that they gave a mayday call, and after that, the rate at which things went wrong, and from 400 feet plus height to coming down is just about 10, 12 seconds. That's hardly anything for the pilots to do anything.
Right, and as Wing Commander Sudhakaran is pointing out, it was like multiple factors which led to this perfect storm. But one very clear question I have for you, Captain Chinta, is that the checks before taking off, are you 100% confident that the pilots, given their experience that we've learned of, they knew that everything was greenlit when it comes to taking the flight into the air, that they had all their checks and balances done before initiating the engines to take off the flight? This flight could not have taken off without the requisite checks coming in from the pilots.
The Boeing 787 has an electronic digital checklist. If you do not tick off an item as checked and found sat, you cannot move forward. You cannot even start the engines. So it's uncomprehensible that checks were not done or something was not right before they even rolled for takeoff. It's too advanced an aircraft to even miss out on a single check. Even if there was a human element where I probably missed a check, the system would not allow you to move forward because it's a digital checklist.
Right.
I have a question.
So that safeguard is there, that the plane would not have moved forward if the digital checklist was not cleared by the system as well as the pilots. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, I'll give you the final word. What do you have to say
I
about
have
the
a
fact
question
that
to
the
get
human
to
factor
the
seems
doubt.
to not be at play over here, but your reaction to that?
No, I have a doubt that I need to ask as a question to Captain Chinta
Go ahead.
regarding the birds theory. See, unless and until it's a flock of birds, and since there are two engines which are placed on both the starboard and the port side, uh, how do you account for that unless and until it's a flock of birds which the pilot in any case would have seen? If it is one or two birds, then I can understand one of the engines getting sucking one of these birds and getting damaged. But how do you explain both the engines going down on a bird strike?
No, like I said, I have flown enough times to Ahmedabad, and small boat activity in this season is predominant. Invariably, if you get clearance for takeoff, there's always a caution for bird activity, suffix to the takeoff clearance, especially for runway 23. So, small boat activity could be a flock of birds on ground. How much of bird ingestion happened is all speculative at this stage. So it's a theory which cannot be ruled out. Neither can it be the sole reason for this catastrophic crash. It could be
The
a
second,
catalyst. For,
the
yeah,
second
it
question
could
is,
be.
if there is a FADEC shutdown of the engines due to a fire incident or something like that, would it lead to a compressor stall, or make that bang sound that we are talking about? A sudden shutdown of the engines in between due to a
May not.
incident.
The only reason a bang would happen is during a compressor stall. A normal engine shutdown will not have any au- audible impact to indicate that it's going to shut down.
Right.
You know, so that's why I said there are eyewitness accounts of loud bang, including the sole survivor. So we're just
Absolutely.
trying to put, knit together all the pieces of available information to evaluate at a plausible theory, which might lead to this. Of course,
Absolutely.
the like I said, the Bible is definitely the flight data
Yeah.
recorder. And I agree with you on a plausible cause of thermal runaway. The 787 has had battery issues. It's had hydraulic issues. It could be a cause why the gear didn't go up. But right now everything is speculation. So
Absolutely.
we can't really say with certainty on what exactly is the pinpointed cause.
Absolutely, and the
No,
black box
absolutely.
is the data Bible, and we'll have to wait and see what that points to when it comes to any kind of issue that might have taken place right after takeoff. But one thing is very clear from Captain Chinta, that when it comes to the checklist by the pilots inside the cockpit, they have had to clear everything. The digital clearance system is tip top when it comes to the 787 Dreamliner, and the flight would not have moved when it comes to the checklist. If those particular checks were not done, this flight would not have moved. So the pilots have used their experience to the hilt when it comes to moving this plane forward. Human error seems to be a small factor in this entire case. But Arunima is also reporting from the crash site. Arunima, over to you. What's the latest?
Where I'm standing right now, Ayushman, I'll just step out of the frame and Vijay Ramashankar will show you. This is the broken wing of the ill-fated Boeing aircraft. This was the part which has completely been charred black that was attached to the body. You'll see some wires here, some machinery like parts. I'm not a civil aviation expert, so I will not be able to tell you what these machinery like parts are. But that's what remains. And if I move ahead, I'll show you how there are some initials still written on this wing. So I can read an A, I can read an N, and I can read a B. That's the only part which is visible. This was a Dreamliner of the Boeing, and this is only one part of the ill-fated aircraft which you see here. Just on the other side, now the police has sanitized this entire premises. There is VIP movement that is expected, and ahead of that, this area is being sanitized. But behind that are those staff quarters where the other part of the wing landed, and the wing in the front part landed here, which is about 250 meters away from the spot. The mess, the undergraduate doctor's mess, which we had shown you earlier in the broadcast, where the tail end and the baggage hold of the aircraft had landed, and the tail end is still there, stuck in the wall of the mess. At least 5 people have died from these quarters and the mess, we are told. One relative perhaps, or somebody who was assisting a doctor, 4 other doctors. So at least 5 people died in these crashes here. There are no crew members who have survived this. There's only one survivor from the passengers. He jumped out of the emergency door and he had some impact injuries, but other than that, he's safe, we are told. So that's what remains of the site. DGCA has started its own inquiry as per international protocol. That's what Civil Aviation Minister has put out. There is an international protocol for air crashes, and all of that is being followed. but it is perhaps one of the worst crash sites that we have seen here in India. I can't even explain to you, the toxic fume is still there. If you move a little towards that side, towards the crash side, you can still smell the aviation fuel. 1.25 lakh litre is what Home Minister said, and even after almost 12 hours or about 11 hours, you can still smell that fuel, and that entire area reminds you of how life ended in less than a minute and a half for those who were perhaps trying to reach London for a joyful time with their loved ones, with their family and friends.
Right, so that's the update that's coming in from Arunima, where 5 people at the medical college mess, they have been confirmed dead. 4 medical students and 1 relative are the ones who have been confirmed dead. So the death toll also going up with people when it comes to this medical mess, where which faced the brunt of the crash, where pieces of the plane continue to be visible, as Arunima is pointing out. Arunima, you're also pointing out about the fact that there are several fumes in the area, that you can still smell the fuel, the 1.25 lakh litres of aviation fuel that is strewn across the area. Does that continue to remain a fire risk in the area as the sanitation operations are still underway?
Not really, because the fire services rushed in immediately after, somebody gave them a call, and I think they rushed here in no time. I don't know if Ramashankar can just zoom in from in between and show you how there are pools of water still. Ramashankar, if you can go just zoom in from where those policemen are standing, there are pools and puddles of water which still remain, and that tells you. And I spotted at least a dozen fire engines all across from the main road of Meghani Nagar to this point. So the fire services have tried with all their might to ensure that the danger as far as aviation fuel is concerned, that goes down. But there are several parts of the aircraft. Plus, this is a area where there are medical waste also lying around. For example, in that mess area, there was a huge cylinder, perhaps some equipment that was utilized by the doctors. One doesn't know what it is. When we went on the first floor of the mess, there was this strange smell, toxic smell that was still lingering around. A mix of perhaps medical equipment and what remains of the tail end of the aircraft that has crashed. Most of the first responders said that when they first came in, they were wearing masks because they were advised to do so. But as the day wore on, and it's very sweltery and humid, and they have been at work for almost 12 hours now, so the masks have gone off, but they still realize that there is a risk. So the risk may not be, to answer your question, from aviation fuel, but there are other risks still at play, and that's why now this entire area has been sanitized, except for the police, the NDRF, the SDRF, and the other agencies from like the DGCA. Other civilians are being asked to move out.
Right, thank you Arunima for getting us that update from the crash site in Ahmedabad. And the big update that's coming in is that the black box has now been recovered to ascertain the flight data as to what happened in those 30 seconds from takeoff to crash. Also, more tragic news coming in, where 5 people in that medical student mess, they have been confirmed dead. 4 medical students and 1 relative, they are now confirmed dead as the death toll continues to rise. We will continue to track all the developments coming in as we track all the updates coming in the wake of this tragedy that has shocked the entire nation and the world. For now, a quick break. More news and updates on the other side.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
I can assure you that Indian aviation is probably one of the safest in the world. We have all the protocols in place. Our DGCA is very robust and effective, and to find, to pick holes into our ability to manage Indian aviation would be very unfair. And I always say this, and I repeat, that aviation is either 100% or zero. There's nothing like 99.9% in aviation. And therefore, in this case also, look at the aircraft. It arrived from Ahmedabad from Delhi. Obviously, it flew without any issue. And to take a 9.5-hour journey from Ahmedabad to London, obviously the pilots would have done all the pre-flight checks. and no pilot is foolish enough to take off if he is not satisfied. The captain per se in this aircraft would have also had thousands and thousands of hours of command, and a 787 and today's aircraft per se are very robust, fail-safe. They have many backup systems, and to really think what went wrong, I would be hazarding a guess which would not be fair. But the point here is the aircraft did go on a takeoff roll, and between the time the wheels went up and the time it crashed, probably the time frame would have been almost only about 60 seconds or so, because you can't go to 800 feet and crash and it be within less. I mean, the time span is only 60 seconds. Now he's already given a mayday call. Now I don't know what exactly went wrong. It will be again hazarding a guess, which would be unfair. The only thing which can be ascertained is now, since the aircraft has fallen just a few hundred meters from the airport and in the BJ Medical Complex, therefore to retrieve the black box and the other equipment would be also, quite simple. We would be able to ascertain only after that. Let me tell you one more thing. In today's aircraft, they are very sophisticated. All the parameters of an aircraft, right? Every single.
Welcome back. And in the wake of the aviation disaster in Ahmedabad, which has led to over 200 deaths, now what we are learning is that Prime Minister Modi will land in Ahmedabad at around 8:30 a.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu will tomorrow afternoon return to Delhi and hold a review meeting in the Ministry of Civil Aviation. He will also concentrate on the committees that need to be formed when it comes to investigating what went wrong in those 30 seconds between the takeoff of Air India Flight 171 and the crash which took place in this residential area right next to the airport. Now remember, the black box has also been recovered, so all the dots can be connected as to what went wrong, which has led to the deaths of over 200 people, not just the people aboard the flight, but also in that residential area where what we are learning now, 5 people have been confirmed dead in that medical mess area, 4 students and 1 relative. And we'll continue to track all the developments coming in on that front as well. We'll take a quick break as we continue all the updates coming in from Ahmedabad in the wake of this tragedy that has led to over 200 deaths. And Prime Minister Modi is now set to land in Ahmedabad tomorrow morning to take stock of the entire situation.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
I can assure you that Indian aviation is probably one of the safest in the world. We have all the protocols in place. Our DGCA is very robust and effective, and to find, to pick holes into our ability to manage Indian aviation would be very unfair. And I always say this, and I repeat, that aviation is either 100% or zero. There's nothing like 99.9% in aviation. And therefore, in this case also, look at the aircraft. It arrived from Ahmedabad from Delhi. Obviously, it flew without any issue. And to take a 9.5-hour journey from Ahmedabad to London, obviously the pilots would have done all the pre-flight checks. And no pilot is foolish enough to take off if he is not satisfied. The captain per se in this aircraft would have also had thousands and thousands of hours of command, and a 787 and today's aircraft per se are very robust, fail-safe. They have many backup systems, and to really think what went wrong, I would be hazarding a guess which would not be fair. But the point here is the aircraft did go on a takeoff roll, and between the time the wheels went up and the time it crashed, probably the time frame would have been almost only about 60 seconds or so, because you can't go to 800 feet and crash and it be within less. I mean, the time span is only 60 seconds. Now he's already given a mayday call. Now, I don't know what exactly went wrong. It will be, again, hazarding a guess, which would be unfair. The only thing which can be ascertained is now, since the aircraft has fallen just a few hundred meters from the airport and in the BJ Medical Complex, therefore, to retrieve the black box and the other equipment would be also, quite simple. We would be able to ascertain only after that. Let me tell you one more thing. In today's aircraft, they are very sophisticated. All the parameters of an aircraft, right? Every single second the aircraft is in the air, all the parameters are recorded, not only by the aircraft, but they are also transmitted to a central command, real time, of the airline itself. So if there is, when an aircraft does a flight, there is a way to ascertain every single parameter during whatever the duration of the flight. So if anything would have gone wrong prior to this flight, or which may have escaped the attention of anybody, I'm sure this will be retrieved in no time once the equipment is found.
Now, Mr. Patel, just to go back in time, because this fleet, the Dreamliner, very, very safe. I think from what the experts are saying, and I only have them to sort of lean on for facts, they've said that this is the first time a Dreamliner.
This was the mess of the undergraduate medical doctors at the undergraduate medical college. The uneaten food reminds you of what really happened here at lunchtime. The unfortunate doctors could not even finish their meals, and there are such plates all across this area. The glass window panes have been all broken. And why does this happen? Because on the other side, I'll just show you. On the other side is that wall that has been smashed out because of that aircraft, the tail part of that aircraft crashing through the gate of this hostel mess. Here you see, I'm just going to show you, these were belongings of passengers who were traveling. Their suitcases were thrown open and all their clothes have been strewn around in this mess. If I walk further, this is only debris now, and there is a very strong fume which I don't know from where it is coming. A lot of the DGCA investigating team people, okay, I'm walking over pillows and I'm walking over belongings of people. This is what remains. There's also toiletries, there's toiletries and cosmetics kits that is lying around. There's some packets of chips and umbrella, and this is the Samsonite suitcase, someone's unfortunate suitcase. Look at the kind of impact. This is what remains of the suitcase, just broken into pieces. Another woman handbag, the remains of a bag. And I'm just going to walk ahead. Like I told you, it's getting difficult to breathe here. There's some kind of a fume that is all around. This is what really triggered this kind of a mess. This is the part of the aircraft which is remains. This is the tire side of it, and the part. It is an investigation area now, and we are being asked to move out. So we'll walk down from the first floor to the ground floor of this mess building, because the DGCA team from Delhi has arrived. They want to sanitize the area. They want to carry out the investigation. And as I'm walking out, once again you'll see the impact of the crash on this building. Many people who were eating in that mess lost their lives. They were there for their meal and they could not survive because one aircraft came crashing down. I'm walking out from this debris area as the police and the investigating team from Delhi, from Bombay, and also from Ahmedabad takes over. A shoe, somebody's shoe, some passenger's shoe, or perhaps a doctor's shoe is also lying around here. If I go further, there are such belongings all over. And these scenes tell you of the horror that 1.5 minutes from the point of takeoff, where you message people saying taking off and I'll message when I land, to here, everything over in just 1.5 minutes.
This is News 18 Network. largest news network.
I can assure you that Indian aviation is probably one of the safest in the world. We have all the protocols in place. Our DGCA is very robust and effective, and to find, to pick holes into our ability to manage Indian aviation would be very unfair. And I always say this, and I repeat, that aviation is either 100% or zero. There's nothing like 99.9% in aviation. And therefore, in this case also, look at the aircraft. It arrived from Ahmedabad from Delhi. Obviously, it flew without any issue. And to take a 9.5-hour journey from Ahmedabad to London, obviously the pilots would have done all the pre-flight checks. And no pilot is foolish enough to take off if he is not satisfied. The captain per se in this aircraft would have also had thousands and thousands of hours of command. And a 787 and today's aircraft per se are very robust, fail-safe. They have many backup systems. And to really think what went wrong, I would be hazarding a guess which would not be fair. But the point here is the aircraft did go on a takeoff roll, and between the time the wheels went up and the time it crashed, probably the time frame would have been almost only about 60 seconds or so, because you can't go to 800 feet and crash and it be within the time span is only 60 seconds. Now he's already given a mayday call. Now I don't know what exactly went wrong. It will be again hazarding a guess, which would be
यहाँ पे जो ऑफिस से बाहर निकला तो मैंने देखा कि आवाज़ जोर से आवाज़ आया विंग्स का, फिर पूरा धुआं भर गया, लोग यहाँ से भगदड़ मची। उसके बाद आके देख रहे थे ये हादसा की स्थिति है।
अच्छा, तो आप यहाँ पर पहले आए तो आपने क्या देखा?
आने के बाद देखा कि पूरा मलबा बिखरा हुआ, आग लगी है, पूरा धुआं गुब्बारा है, कुछ भी दिखाई नहीं दे रहा, समझ में नहीं आ पा रहा था क्या है। हाँ, उसके बाद पता चला कि ये विंग्स गिरा हुआ है, फ्लाइट वो किया, और फिर प्रशासन ने चारों तरफ से घेर लिया।
जब से आए कितने बजे हुआ तकरीबन ये हादसा, कुछ समय
लगभग 45 मिनट पहले हादसा हुआ।
यहीं मेरे ऑफिस में बैठी थी, जैसा धड़ाका हुआ मैं वहाँ ऑफिस से वहाँ गई। बहुत बड़ा प्लेन क्रैश हुआ था, तो बहुत धुआं और आग लगी थी। जो डॉक्टर्स के फ्लैट थे उनको बहुत डैमेज हुए हैं, और उसमें से कितने डॉक्टरों को हमने निकाला है, लोकल कार्यकर्ता और सब मिलके। बाद में जो प्लेन में से निकाले हैं वो लोग भी बहुत
बड़ी दुखद
बहुत
मौत कुछ
अभी कोई अंदाजा नहीं लग रहा है। रहने वालों को भी बहुत नुकसान हुआ है।
हाँ, जस्ट बोर्डिंग हुआ था, मैं अंदर फ्लाइट के अंदर वॉक करते जा रहे थे, बट सामने बहुत बड़ा धुआं वगैरह दिख रहा था। बट उस टाइम मुझे ये नहीं मालूम था वो प्लेन क्या है। जैसे कोई आग झाड़ी हुए वगैरह जंगल में आग लगती है ना, लाइक वैसा कुछ तो लग रहा था। ये मालूम नहीं था कि वो प्लेन क्रैश हुआ है।
तो उसके बाद क्या हुआ? इंडिगो की तरफ से इन्फॉर्मेशन, एयरपोर्ट की तरफ से क्या इन्फॉर्मेशन मिल गया?
नहीं, तब तक कुछ फिर हम अंदर जाके बैठे, हमारे साथ में हम फोटो भी निकाल रहे थे, जैसे कोई आग लगी होगी झाड़ी वगैरह में। जब फ्लाइट में बैठे और 10-15 मिनट इधर उधर पूरे एकदम से अनाउंसमेंट हो गया कि फ्लाइट डिले हो रहा है। बट वहाँ पे उन्होंने ये रीज़न नहीं बताया कि किस वजह से डिले हो रहा है। डिले हो रहा है इतना ही बताया था। बट अभी वो वाईफाई मतलब इंटरनेट वगैरह सब चालू था, मोबाइल पे न्यूज़ आ गया, तब हमें पता चला कि वो फ्लाइट क्रैश हुआ है।
मेरा लड़का है ना, वो ब्रेक पड़ा था खाने का, तो हॉस्टल में खाने गया था इधर, यानी हॉस्टल में ही प्लेन क्रैश हुआ। पर मेरे लड़का को कुछ हुआ नहीं, बात हुई मेरी, पर इसके भाईबंद है ज़्यादा हुए तो लोग मर गए। ये फिर मेरा लड़का को देखने जाना है अंदर। मेरे को लड़का बोला है कि मैं अच्छा दूसरे माल से कूदा था ना, तो थोड़ा खाली लगा है, ऐसा बोला है मेरे को। पर मैं जाऊँ अंदर तो मालूम पड़े ना ऐसा।
ठीक है।
अब This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
I can assure you that Indian aviation is probably one of the safest in the world. We have all the protocols in place. Our DGCA is very robust and effective. And to find, to pick holes into our ability to manage Indian aviation would be very unfair. And I always say this, and I repeat, that aviation is either 100% or zero. There's nothing like 99.9% in aviation. And therefore, in this case also, look at the aircraft. It arrived from Ahmedabad from Delhi. Obviously, it flew without any issue. And to take a 9.5-hour journey from Ahmedabad to London, obviously the pilots would have done all the pre-flight checks. And no pilot is foolish enough to take off if he is not satisfied. The captain per se in this aircraft would have also had thousands and thousands of hours of command. And a 787 and today's aircraft per se are very robust, fail-safe. They have many backup systems. And to really think what went wrong, I would be hazarding a guess which would not be fair. But the point here is the aircraft did go on a takeoff roll, and between the time the wheels went up and the time it crashed, probably the time frame would have been almost only about 60 seconds or so, because you can't go to 800 feet and crash and it be within the time span is only 60 seconds. Now he's already given a mayday call. Now I don't know what exactly went wrong. It will be again hazarding a guess which would be
Viewers, the footage makes the heart sink. In 30 seconds, it was all over. You can see those pictures, all over for 242 passengers on AI-171, barring one miracle survivor, as the plane crashed into a medical college located in its flight path just beyond the perimeter of the Ahmedabad airport, viewers. One of the biggest tragedies in the country. The plane lost lift catastrophically. Its landing gear hadn't even been retracted, and you can see that, viewers. It was laden with fuel as it was preparing for a long haul to London Gatwick. It was a firebomb, virtually, waiting to go off. It was just a 13-year-old aircraft, so ordinarily it shouldn't have suffered the catastrophic failures it has. The only silver lining, as I told you, was the news of a survivor emerging from the wreckage. Literally a walking miracle. There you can see him. The survivor was a man, or is a man called Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, a British national who was returning to London. He was seated on 11A. He recounted that he was surrounded by fire and smoke and can't believe he is alive. Judging by the ball of flames, even we can't believe that someone survived this inferno. You can see those pictures. I want to go back to those pictures. There are two visuals of that crash. One, of course, is this entire sequence from takeoff to crash, which makes the heart sink and the stomach churn. And there is another one, caught from a distance, from a different angle. There it is, viewers. Mid-flight, and the plane comes down. Now, Vishwanath Ramesh, as I told you, is lucky to be alive. He's lucky to be alive. And, viewers, I have to say that if it's a silver lining, news of a survivor emerging from the wreckage, then I have to say, viewers, that the others shouldn't actually have died. Let me tell you, this tragedy could have been averted. Red flags have been raised, not once but repeatedly. And in my hand, viewers, are the instances. The DGCA that comes under the central government has flagged numerous issues with Air India through show cause notices, but never got adequately satisfactory responses. That is what the DGCA has said on numerous occasions. If this is the case, Why did the DGCA give such a long rope to Air India? These are questions the DGCA must answer. The Tata Group, the DGCA needs to come out and explain. At one point, for example, the DGCA said and flagged, quote, instances of unauthorized entry into the aircraft cockpit have been reported to the DGCA in the recent past, wherein persons having no authority or purpose were permitted entry into cockpit, unquote. This is a serious breach. But more than this, there were show cause notices for risky flight safety. Viewers, there are many instances, and these instances begin from June 2022 when Tata took over Air India. Now viewers, the Tata Group came with a halo. It emphasized the fact that Tata was the one that was taking over Air India. Why? Because there's a certain brand resonance. There's a certain trust factor associated with the Tata brand. Viewers, did the Tatas squander